Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Annika Fairwild and today I'll be taking you through my March media wrap-up. My background, kind of ugly, so I put on a Ghibli screensaver video for you guys. This very boring plain white wall will be decorated soon. Unfortunately not for maybe the next few coming weeks because I'm on crutches at the moment. I can't really walk and so I can't really get up there and start hammering stuff about. I'm okay, I just had minor surgery. Anyway, today I'm going to be talking you through the books that I read, films that I watched, TV shows that I watched, and just YouTube accounts that I've been watching in general. Also towards the end I tend to do kind of just like a speed round of specific YouTube videos that I like, so I'm going to be including that too. If I seem more put together, it's because I have given myself a mild script for once, because I find that I have a very scattered mind. I don't know, I just have a hard time expressing things because I have many thoughts. Verbalizing them all in a cohesive way has always been quite difficult for me. So I've given myself, get this, bullet points. If I'm looking down, it's that. Anyway, let's start with books first. First off, we have A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf. So this is Virginia Woolf's essay on why women historically haven't really contributed much in terms of literature. This was published in 1929. I'm gonna be real, this is very distracting. I might change it to like just a fireplace. That's better. She basically posits that a woman must have time, money, and a space of her own, a room of one's own, if she is to write effectively. So I really enjoyed that this wasn't structured like a typical essay. Basically, we follow Woolf around as if she were a character, and we go through her days as she's researching this essay, this book, and we get to see her contemplate and kind of ponder all these ideas that she's researching, and throughout the book she weaves it all together into a really cohesive argument. Her mind was, her mind. Like, you have to have such a sharp mind to be able to write the way she did. It's just really vibrant, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it because, like, I read a lot of essay-style essays, so it was just like it was refreshing to have something more in a digestible and kind of like a fluid style. That's how it felt to me. It felt dynamic, fluid, vibrant, unique. Those are my 4 adjectives. Next, I read a Penguin mini classic. Now, I've talked about my love of a good Penguin mini classic many times now. I don't need to repeat it. And that is Sappho's Come Close. I'm gonna be real, if you're here with me at this YouTube channel, you know who Sappho is. I know you know. If you don't, I don't believe you, by the way. She is an ancient Greek poet from around 630 to 750 BC. She was so iconic that Plato dubbed her the 10th muse. You know what? Like, if Plato of all people says that about you, you know you've made it. She was so iconic that lesbians were named after the place she was, Lesbos. Isle of Lesbos? Is that an island? Yes, it is. Anyway, it's gorgeous, yearning, loving poetry written for women by a woman. I first read Sappho in like 2021. I read Sappho Stung with Love. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I'm not huge on poetry. I like poetry. I like poetry as much as the next person likes poetry. I don't write poetry per se. I've written maybe like 2-3 poems in my life. It's not my thing, but I do respect poetry a lot. My favourite section in this book was the chapter, well, it's like 8 pages, called Desire and Death Longing. Like, even just that title, Desire and Death Longing. Do you want me to even live after this? That's just gorgeous. Yeah. I'll put a picture of my favourite one up on the screen. The next book I can't show you a physical copy of because I read it as a PDF. It is Psychic Witch, A Metaphysical Guide to Meditation, Magic and Manifestation by Matt Oren. Now, this book is very hyped in the witchcraft community. As a note, I would like to also mention I'm still reading this. I'm about like 70% of the way through. I have very mixed thoughts on this book. So I'm just gonna go through my pros first, cons later. This does have actually useful information and kind of tips and tricks for gaining power over your focus and perception in the realm of the imagination. It does genuinely help train your mind to meditate, especially if you already like kind of struggle with that. It has a lot of very useful meditation and visualization exercises for beginners. It also gives a very in-depth guide to kind of foundational practices that are very common in witchcraft, like grounding, centering, cleansing, shielding, etc. One thing I found it really useful for was to teach you that witchcraft can actually be done entirely in like the mental sphere. In terms of cons, for me, for my liking, and this is purely personal, and I cannot overstate that enough, okay? It leans too heavily into ideas of the energetic model of witchcraft. I understand that that's a very common model. I have my own gripes with it. I would like to put out a disclaimer, I do sometimes lean into it because I use something called the meta model of understanding. I do want to do a video on different models of understanding of witchcraft because I feel like it's not talked about enough. It's very common if you know what you're talking about, but there's not a lot of beginner information about it. From what I've seen, despite the fact that it really leans into the whole energy thing, I do think that a lot of the techniques and information can be very easily adapted to different frameworks of understanding, and so I do still recommend it quite a bit. I do have two small gripes with it myself. First off, it's like a 290 something page book. There are far too many exercises in it. There's over 70 visualization / meditation exercises, and I think that's okay, but you just need to know it going into it, because I didn't. I thought this was more of like an informational book rather than a here's some exercises for you to do kind of deal. Relating to this, I did see a lot of complaint online about how a lot of these exercises aren't uniquely conjured up by the author himself. He didn't make them, like they can be traced back to older witchcraft texts. To me, this isn't really that much of an issue. It's quite good if you expect for it to be kind of a lengthier list of exercises that you can work through. I guess a lot of people complained that it wasn't like they've seen it before. That doesn't mean that it's not helpful. Like, they're the basics for a reason. He's teaching you the basics. I do actually recommend trying a lot of these exercises. I found them really fun and engaging. I guess if you've been researching this for like years and you keep seeing the same exercises over and over again, like, yeah, it's gonna get boring. But if you don't have a solid grasp on these basics, definitely like check it out. The last book I'm also still reading is Au Revoir by J.K. Huysmans. It was a book written in 1884 and it influenced a lot of aesthetic thinkers at the time, such as Oscar Wilde, obviously. I feel like he's the go-to one, everyone knows. Yeah, this book was the little yellow book in Portrait of Dorian Gray. The one that Dorian kept carrying around with him and had rebound in different colours. Yeah, that's this book. And basically it follows an aristocrat called Des Esseintes who kind of hates society. He hates everyone and how shit their taste is, and he's really affected by this, so he decides to kind of retire in a rural manor or mansion, I'm not sure, rural estate, let's say. It's less than 300 pages, I think, but the whole book is him going through his house in intricate detail. So I just mentioned the picture of Dorian Gray. If you read it, you will know of like where it's just one whole chapter of Dorian listing shit out. It's not like that. I would like to clarify, because I found that quite annoying. Like, I get it, it's very decadent, it's very luxurious, sure, okay. To read it, not that interesting, because it was kind of just like, after a while. Like, okay, I get it. This is actually interesting, because he takes you through this paradise that he's built for himself, and he really, like, goes into detail. He explains everything as to why he's made it like that. And this man, Des Esseintes, is like the most over-the-top man you will ever see. And yet, like, at times he can feel like aesthetic. Like, he's not a hedonist. He very much worships beauty, and he pays such minute attention to everything. And it's really gorgeous the way he just talks about things. And then Huysmans takes you through Des Esseintes' opinions on like everything in this house. There's like, again, I'm only halfway through, but we have chapters on like the specific wall color, like ancient Latin texts, artworks, jewels. He really, like, he dives in. It's just a spectacle. It's a feast for the mind, it's a feast for the senses. I recommend. Maybe he'll give you some interior decorating tips, who knows. Next, we're going to be moving on to films now. So, I don't know how much people know this online, because I've never spoken about this in my YouTube videos, and it doesn't really come across in my style, but I've always had a very strong interest in like cyberpunk aesthetics and like cyberpunk, cybercore style media. And this also really conveniently feeds into my interest in artificial intelligence. Stop it. Stop it. I meant artificial intelligence in the actual sense, not as in generative AI. I would never use generative AI. As a side note, I have missed out on at least $1,000 by not promoting generative AI online. But never forget, going against your morals will never result in good things. Also, I'm quite interested in ideas of techno-orientalism and cyborg feminism as well, which, like, all of this is kind of one bundle. Side note, actually, cyborg feminism is kind of problematic. I don't support it. I'm just interested in it, okay? I can't explain to you why right now because I'm not informed enough about it, because I haven't read the actual foundational text. I've not read the Cyborg Manifesto by Donna Haraway. I'm getting to it, okay? It's so dense. Give me a second. I'm not going to comment on it until I've done that, but I've read a lot of criticism for it. The reason I'm mentioning this is because you will see that this kind of bundle of cyberpunk, cybercore ideas will be very heavily featured in my films and TV of this month. First off is the 1975 version of The Stepford Wives. This is a psychological horror film where basically there is this small town called Stepford, and all the men in it gradually replace their wives with AI robot counterparts. The film follows Joanna Eberhardt, who has recently moved to Stepford Town with her husband, who keeps leaving to go to these all-male secret town meetings. First of all, I watched this very late at night. I was painting during it, and it was like 3 AM by the time I finished this. Second of all, the uncanny really gets to me. Shout out The Stranger from the Magnus Archives. If you know, you know. To the point where I have what I believe is kind of like an uncommon fear, or at least intense discomfort around living statues. It's not like phobia level. I've never met anyone who feels the same way as me. So with all that in mind, the ending. Consider me creeped. I was creeped out. The ending sequence in the grocery store as well. Iconic, perfect, speechless. Like, okay, my apologies, The Stepford Wives, I wasn't familiar with your game. It's a classic for a reason, go watch it. Next, in a similar vein, I watched Companion, also late at night, and also a horror. Not so psychological, I don't think. I don't know if this is spoilers or not, I don't think so. Basically, the plot is a kind of loser guy mods his sex robot to kill his girl best friend / situationship's boyfriend so that they can get rich together. Sophie Thatcher plays in this and she was incredible, don't even get me started. Her wardrobe as well. The villain, I forgot his name because he's a man and men never have interesting names, but he was so, like, I forgot that that was a guy playing the villain. It's just very believable because he's such like a man. That makes sense. That makes sense, I promise. I don't have much to say about this. I think this was just like a classic horror, you know, classic subversion of the sex bot trope. Yeah, I liked it. It was good. Not much to say about it. It didn't really do anything new with the genre, but I enjoyed it nonetheless. Last film I watched was Akira, 1988. And this is a classic. Like, of course I've seen Akira. Who do you think I am? This is, I believe this is classed as a dementia anime. Dementia animes are my favourite genre if you didn't know. I watched this with my mom. Go search up Akira Slide compilation just to see how many franchises have referenced Akira. Basically, the film follows two members of a biker gang who are friends. Best friends, in fact. I think they're best friends. In my mind, I made up that they're best friends just to make it more dramatic, but I don't think it's ever said. It takes place in Neo Tokyo, which is as you can guess, future Tokyo, which has been destroyed after a war. And there's like riots going on. Generally, it's just not a great place to live. Kaneda is the protagonist, and he has this really sick-ass jacket and a matching bike, which is beside the point, but I wanted to mention it because I like it. And his best friend and antagonist, Tetsuo, basically crashes into this like strange little psychic child slash old man because he was trying to get away from a rival biker gang that was going after them. Tetsuo then basically gets abducted by the government and has a bunch of experiments done on him, and he starts developing psychic powers at a really rapid rate, and he kind of gets a bit corrupted by them. Through a series of events, he learns about this universal life force slash energy type thing, and it's simply referred to as Akira, and he really wants to go see it slash like merge with it. I love this film so much. I really recommend you watch it. Trigger warning question mark? I'm not sure because it's animated, but I don't know, my mum got quite creeped out when she watched it, so I thought I'd mention there's like towards the end quite a bit of body horror. It's a bit creepy, but I've personally always been better with animated horror. It's just like not as visceral, and also like I'm gonna say something right now which I don't think is controversial, but I think animation is one of the best art forms we have because there's just so much you can do in animation that you cannot do in film, and I think it's just the medium is a lot better suited for evoking emotion in a viewer than a film is, just because of all the freedom that you're afforded with it. Anyway, on to TV shows. I've only watched 2 TV shows. I watched the first season of Twin Peaks, and like everyone and their mother is watching Twin Peaks, and I didn't know this until like last month. Ironically, I am actually watching it with my mother. She was the one who introduced it to me. Shout out. She has taste. She's a tasteful lady. I haven't mentioned Twin Peaks in previous installments of this series just because I hadn't finished it. We've been very slowly making our way through the first season since like January, because it's one of those shows that like you watch with someone else and you don't go ahead and watch the rest of the show without them, because that's rude. So we've been going at my mum's pace. I'm actually so curious as to what started the Twin Peaks revival online, because I started seeing Twin Peaks content about like a week after I started the show. Anyway, about the actual show, it follows a whole cast of characters in this small, quaint town called Twin Peaks, and Twin Peaks is so gorgeous. Twin Peaks is so, I don't know, it's like a dream town for me. It's also a very dreamy and surreal town because in a classic David Lynch fashion, there's a lot of like fuck-ass dream sequences, which like I love the dream sequences. I love how discomforting they are. Again, the uncanny, it really gets to me. That's why I love psychological stuff so much, because it really, sorry. Basically, the plot is that a young girl named Laura Palmer, rest in peace Laura Palmer, was murdered, and she haunts the narrative. And yes, before you come for me, yes, this is where I learned of the term haunting the narrative. I'm sorry, everyone has to learn things somewhere. We follow the lead detective on the case, Dale Cooper, who is an icon of television. He's a quirked up white boy, he talks into his speaker, talking to Diane. Like, yeah, he's an icon. Okay, I'm not certain on this, but I'm pretty sure that this is meant to be a satire of soaps. And I'm pretty sure the satire is why every single character in this town is cheating on each other. Every single one. I cannot think of a single one who doesn't, except Audrey, but she can never do anything wrong in my eyes. Twin Peaks is so small town, misty forest, twilight filter, coffee and pie in a diner, like moss, a gas station, old pickup truck. Like, I'm just saying things at this point. I think it makes sense. This is what I mean by my ideas are hard to express. Sometimes I just need to give you a verbal Pinterest board for you to understand it. That's all I have to say about Twin Peaks. Go watch it. Like, it's an iconic television show. I don't think you need me to tell you that. The sun is setting and my lighting is changing, which is kind of annoying, but we're almost done. So, last TV show was Serial Experiments Lain. Now, I need you to understand, like, I have watched Serial Experiments Lain before. I watched it when I was 17 during my year-long anime phase, which, by the way, even back then I had taste. I wasn't watching whatever like isekai bullshit you guys are watching. Nuh-uh. We are not watching women get sexualized in this household. I was inspired to rewatch it by this video essay that I watched by Final Girl Studios. It spoke to me so much, and it was so brilliantly done that I decided to go watch it again, to go revisit with my partner. I always like doing this because if I have a new favourite, someone needs to watch it. Someone around me needs to watch it so they can understand, so that they can see what I'm seeing. I did the same thing a couple of years back with Evangelion, Neon Genesis Evangelion, that is, if you need the full government name. Evangelion is also a dementia anime, and it's probably my favourite of all time. So Serial Experiments Lain, it's almost as iconic as Neon Genesis Evangelion because they are in the same genre and they are both staples of the dementia anime genre. The plot is a girl ascends to godhood through what is basically the internet. It's called The Wired, it's the internet. I recommend watching this show and then watching the video essay that I just showed, and then maybe watching any other video essays that you're going to need to watch, because I'm confident enough to admit that the first time I watched this, I did not understand the plot at all. I understood that she was ascending to godhood, I didn't understand how or why. And I also didn't really understand the ideas being discussed through a very heavy use of metaphor. So what I did afterwards was I watched a lot of video essays to help me understand it, because even back then I'm like, well, I can tell that I'm missing something, but I don't know what it is. And I think that's a healthy attitude to have, and it's always good to, once you've learned something, go back and revisit it with that knowledge. I love this show because it has, from what I've seen, so many different interpretations. Every video essay you're gonna watch on it is gonna be a little bit different. That's just so special and so interesting. I just love animes like that, where it can mean like whatever you want it to mean. We're almost at the end now. We're at YouTubers. We only have 2 YouTubers for today. First one is Kelly Ann Maddox. This woman has a huge amount of witchcraft videos. Her videos are so full of information and so useful, especially if you already have like a baseline understanding of witchcraft and you want to delve deeper into specific topics. She has videos on the majority of things you could possibly need, honestly. But other than like general witchcraft videos, from what I gather, she also makes like chaos magic, shadow work, in general mental health kind of videos as well. Second YouTuber is Peachy Abby, and Abby makes a lot of fashion content, vlogs as well, and media recommendations. She has such a whimsical style. Her decor and her videos are so gorgeous. She seems to be really inspired by various vintage fashions. She's just great for outfit inspirations. She seems really intelligent as well, and her taste, immaculate. Go check both these people out. So while I sit and speak, I'm gonna flash a bunch of different videos that I really enjoyed, specific videos on screen, because as always, I'm not gonna go through my entire month's worth of YouTube history to make a whole list and give my reviews on every single video. But these are just ones I enjoyed, and I hope if any of them catch your eye, you go check them out. Anyway, thank you so much for being here with me and for listening to my recommendations and hopefully taking my recommendations. Please. If you enjoyed any of them, I would definitely implore you to go check them out and let me know what you thought. I'm curious. I make one of these wrap-up videos every month. If you want to see the next one for April, please subscribe. Maybe I'm gonna say something very YouTubery, hit the notification bell, ? And also the like button. I always forget to like videos on YouTube, so I'm gonna ask you now because I never do it unless someone asks me, so please. Anyway, thank you so much for being here and for watching me rant and ramble, and I hope to see you next time if you wish to return and come join me again. I love you. Goodbye.